Today we are going to learn about arts of listening. In communication, rather than speaking, listening is also very important aspect that needs skill. Many people assume that listening comes naturally, but no, you need special skills to be a good listener. So, to understand the meaning of listening, we can write that it is a fundamental communication skill it is most valuable skill. Why it is most valuable? Because if you are not listening to what the speaker is speaking, then obviously the whole essence of the speech is lost. Then it is most valuable skill in an interpersonal relationship. Now, what is the importance of being a good listener? The listening process basically has 4 steps, or rather 5 steps, which are receiving, then understanding, evaluating, remembering, and retaining. Followed by the basic step of communication, we see that listening is starts once the information is received. Once it is received, you need to understand, and based on your understanding you evaluate, then you remember, and finally if it is valuable to you, you retain the same. So, art of listening makes retention effective, because if you are listening properly to something, then only same will be retained. So, we can say then it is ultimately leading to your better interpersonal relationships. Good listening basically leads to effective communication, and to get a clear understanding of this effectiveness achieved through good listening, let us revise the process of communication, which was message, then encode, then send, followed by decoding, and finally interpretation. So, the role of listening starts here. So, we can write listening skills. This entire process of communication would remain ineffective unless there are good listening skills involved on the part of the audiences, because once you listen to the information, then only the same would be decoded and interpreted. So, we can say listening is important for effective communication. There are certain strategies that one can adopt to improve their listening ability. Strategies to improve listening. The very first strategy: take a deep breath before responding. This might appear to be a natural phenomenon, but in some way it can be called a strategy to improve listening. The benefit of this strategy is that the other person will definitely feel that you are not responding just for the sake of responding, but you actually gave a thought to it. Thought to message. Second strategy is always listen to the speaker with an intention of understanding. Then third strategy is always summarize your response. Never try to give a response that is too much detailed, because then it would be difficult for the speaker to respond back and relate with you. So, it is always better to be summarized while responding. And then your fourth strategy is ask questions whenever needed. Asking questions make the speaker feel that the listeners are actually awake and they are ready with some doubts. So, this is a good source of motivation for the speaker as well, and it will improve your listening also. Now, how can you say that someone is having good listening quality? There are two things to judge whether someone is having good listening quality or not. One is continuous self monitoring. And second is seeking feedback. You can say seeking critical feedback. Self monitoring means self check and control, and seeking critical feedback, which one can seek from his friends, then colleagues, etc. These two things would definitely help in improving your listening quality. Now we will understand these two strategies in detail. When you talk of self-monitoring, then it actually means to have an awareness of how the behavior affects another person. Monitoring, as we all know, is basically self-checking and controlling. So, when you are saying that you are self-monitoring, you need to be aware that how your behavior is putting an impact on the other person. Then second thing is self-observation and self-control. One needs to be very much sure that while speaking they are neither too soft nor too harsh. So, they need to observe and then control. Make sure that you behave by checking on a self-monitory scale. This will help you to understand that how much you are deviating from a standard basis that you need to maintain for your speech to be effective. So, these three aspects you need to cover under self-monitoring. Now, let us see what comes under seeking feedback. When we talk of this second stage in improving the listening skills, it is about seeking feedback. So, why this is done? To facilitate improvement in listening and to get opinions from experts. Now, let us see what is the basic nature of listening. One can be primary listening, then second can be your secondary listening, focused listening, and lastly global listening. Now, what is primary listening? Primary listening is your initiatory listening. Now, when you are attending a lecture or a speech, your initiatory listening would be you start with observing the speaker and then you just start receiving words. So, that is a very primary stage wherein you have not yet started analyzing what the speaker is saying. Secondary listening is your remembered listening. Like when you are attending say a lecture series, so after first lecture when you come to second lecture, you got to remember some points that were discussed in first. So, you are doing remembered listening by relating to what you did earlier to what you are doing presently. Then focus listening on specific topics. Means you are listening to the speaker, but you are laying your focus only on some specific topics whom you feel are important to you. And then lastly is global listening, which is an open field listening. In this there is huge amount of information that is coming to you and you need to gather the most out of it. So, you can say that nature of listening can be of 4 types: primary, secondary, focused and global. Just like barriers to communication, there are certain barriers to effective listening that may hamper the main objective or the essence of listening. So, these barriers can be broadly divided into 3 groups. One is your physiological barrier. Second is your environmental barrier. And third is your attitudinal barrier. Barrier is any hindrance that is blocking the way of effective listening. So, we will understand these 3 basic barriers. Now, your physiological barrier, one can be any hearing impairment, means the person is physically not fit for hearing. So, this is causing a problem in listening. Second is speaking thinking rate. When someone is speaking and you are listening to it, it is very important that what you are thinking about it. So, this rate has to be balanced so as to get a clear meaning of the speech. So, these 2 things are covered under your physiological barrier. Then environmental barrier, first is physical distraction. Like due to improper sitting arrangement, you are not able to concentrate on the speaker and what he is trying to say. So, this is basically a sitting arrangement which is a barrier of the environment that is disturbing you and is stopping you from effectively listening. Second is message overload. After a certain limit, if the speaker is continuously disseminating huge amount of information, then it becomes difficult to retain. So, this also causes problem in effective listening. After understanding your physiological and environmental barrier, let us come to attitudinal barrier. It includes prejudices, which are your deep seated belief systems this many a times will stop you from properly listening and understanding what the speaker intends to say, as these dominate your mindset and stop you from gathering any new information. Then second is preoccupation. If someone is mentally disturbed and is continuously thinking about anything, maybe personal or professional, then the person's mind is said to be preoccupied, and this will stop him from listening effectively. Then third is your casual attitude. Like this kind of hindrance is generally seen in your students while attending lectures. So, they carry a very casual attitude that okay, that won't cause a much problem if they don't listen to the speaker. So, this is a casual attitude which again causes ineffective listening. And last is egocentrism. Sometimes people become too egoistic to listen and agree to the speaker. So, this also stops them from effective listening. So, all these are the barriers to effective listening. Now, there are some poor listening habits that people generally carry which should be avoided. One is faking attention. Many people have this habit of just faking attention so that the speaker does not come to know that whether you are listening actually or you are just for the sake of listening, you are sitting and carrying those gestures. Second is listening only to facts. It is not necessary that every time you listen to facts and that would be enough. Many a times it is very important to understand the entire basis and the content which the speaker wish to deliver. Then third is avoiding difficult material. This is a general tendency that people just skip what they seem is difficult and they don't even try to understand. So, this again is a poor listening habit. Fourth is focusing on delivery. You will see that many people always tries to critically evaluate the speaker, that how he is delivering the message rather than listening to what he is saying. So, this is again a bad listening habit. After understanding this poor listening habits, we will see some principles of listening that must be adopted so as to ensure effective listening. First basic principle is maintain eye contact. This is very important for both speaker and the listener to maintain a relationship or to ensure effective communication between the two. Second is focus on content which the speaker is delivering and not on delivery, because you are there to grasp what he is saying and you are not there to critically evaluate the speaker. Then third is avoid any kind of emotional attachment. Fourth, make sure that you stop yourself from all kinds of distraction. because this will again hamper your basic objective of listening. It is very important that as a listener you consider listening as an inspiring job. Don't consider that it is a burden on you to listen to the speaker, but you need to understand that you are listening for your own good, so as to gain something new from the knowledge base of the speaker. The next, don't hesitate in asking questions. This is very important for you to get a clear picture of what is being delivered. The next is, do not ever interrupt the speaker, because this will again distract and will spoil the entire ambience. Do not interrupt the speaker. Make sure that you try your best to infer or to understand the main idea for which the speaker is coming and speaking for you. And last principle is, don't make any assumptions about the speaker, because all these things are very common and these often disturb effective listening. Don't make assumptions about the speaker. So these are the basic principles that should be followed to ensure effective listening.